I'm Kay Ross and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do a Booksperience for Chapter 3 of Space, Time, and the Shopkeeper. Chapter 2 was fascinating. We had an irregular visit Arona who told her she'd do fine at something and to keep the change, which totally discombobulated her in many ways. Shall we see what happens next? Chapter 3, The Dreams and Such. Arona locked the front door to the Gilded Pages and dropped her keys into her almost empty book bag. No Austen, Dickens, Carroll, or Eurus had been added to her bag tonight. Her brain was much too addled to think of reading right now. Something almost unheard of. Reading was a cure for everything. Her skin still tingled in shivers now and again, as if humming with some invisible frequency or current. It's psychosomatic, just nerves left over from that unsettling Irregular, she told herself, but she couldn't shake it. She walked briskly down the narrow cobblestoned Quincy Lane toward the harbor. Quincy Lane had been host to the Gilded Pages for nearly 50 years now, 14 while it was hers and 35 for her parents. The soft soles of her leather sandals padded on the worn stones. When she was a teenager, Quincy Lane had taught her, by way of 2 sprained ankles, that it would not tolerate high heels. At all. She quickened her pace. Her flat was around the corner on Port Haven Road, above Haven's Rest Bakery, and across from the town's sprawling harbor. Usually, the smells of the sea and bakery and the sounds of the harbor lulled her into an evening of relaxation. Not this evening. As she stepped out of Quincy Lane, it was almost dusk. The pinks and oranges of the sunset were so brilliant they stretched all the way to the eastern horizon. The familiar clanking of the lines against the masts tried to assure her everything was fine. But she wouldn't listen. She bypassed the alluring bakery door with the usually tempting chocolate croissant, and instead headed directly up the narrow, creaky stairway to her unit. Clive, her poofy white 4-footed roommate, mewed as she opened the door, then wove between her legs in greeting. The view from her spacious bay window overlooked the harbor and street below. It was the perfect catalyst for imagination and an excellent outpost for people watching. She and Clive would spend hours there, curled up with a good book. Not this evening. She was too agitated, too tingly to concentrate. Why did he ask me about peace? Why did I answer him like that? What will I do fine at? And why wasn't that book in the system? The fact that the book he bought had Gilded Pages, and that the name of her store was the Gilded Pages, did not escape her notice either. Perhaps I've read just one too many mystery novels, she finally decided, and with that, she set about making dinner for her and Clive. Cooking and eating occupied her mind for only so long. She searched the internet for the book and author on her phone. Nothing. She called her mother to see if she remembered the book. "Doesn't ring a bell, sweetie. Sorry." "What did the Irregular look like?" She described what he looked and sounded like. "Afraid I'm no help to you, dearie. I would have remembered the coat if I'd seen it." And she would have. She knew their customers better than Arona did. Of course, Arona knew more about their imaginary lives, but that was irrelevant at this juncture. With no resolution in sight and unable to keep still enough to read, Arona cleaned. The toilet, tub, and sink got scrubbed. Her bills for the month were sorted and paid, and laundry was accomplished and put away. She even balanced her checkbook. She couldn't remember the last time that had been done. She did anything to keep her mind off the tingles on her skin, in her bones, and the unsolved questions. By the time she slipped into bed, the tingles were less frequent, and her weary eyes wanted to stay shut. The odd effect the Irregular had on her seemed to be almost over. Dreams snatched at her all night long. She was running down an alleyway, squatting behind a huge dumpster, yelling at the top of her lungs at a man down the street, and last of all, filling out paperwork. No scenes were caught fully. Arona woke up feeling a bit sore. It felt like she had been running and squatting all night. "Good morning, She stopped herself. Her voice felt a little strained, as if she'd yelled with all her might. Psychosomatic, she told herself again, and got ready for work. Monday morning, 4 days after Mr. Irregular's very irregular visit, Arona sat at the front counter, perched on her stool. She'd continued to have some wild snippets of dreams and a few achy mornings, but she was convinced it would pass. She just needed to get her imagination focused elsewhere, She stared at the computer screen, deciding which books to order for an early fall display. Should she focus on cookbooks? It might be too early to tap into the holiday spirit. Perhaps puzzle books and games. More rain in the fall meant more afternoons indoors for kids and sailors. The bell clinked on the front door. She looked up over the top of the glasses perched on her nose and took in a sharp breath. She wasn't ready for this. It wasn't a Thursday, and he was walking directly toward her. "Hello," Watson said with a broad smile. Arona cleared her throat and sat up straight. "Hello?" She stared at his very organized white teeth and wondered why his parents named him Watson. Were they detectives? Mystery book enthusiasts? Did he have to wear braces? Now Watson cleared his throat. She realized her eyes must have glazed over. "Geez, how can I help you?" "I'm trying to locate an old book, and I was wondering if you have any connections for old books. I've looked online, and no one has been able to find the book for me." This piqued Arona's interest. A book hunt mystery to distract her from her own. "What's the title of the book?" "I only have a small used selection, but I can give a good look through various contacts and online networks, platforms, and forums. Perhaps we can find it that way." That was the most she'd ever said to Watson. She felt proud of herself inwardly, yet incredibly nervous. She pulled out her father's old leather address book and inadvertently knocked the stapler off the counter at the same time. A few seconds of sorries and thank yous ensued as Watson picked up the stapler and replaced it on the counter. "The title?" Arona finally asked again, with cheeks flaming. He handed her a scrap of paper. "The Account of Herman Wiegler, as it pertains to transportation without mode, by Dr. Favreau, 1863, was scrawled across it." "Without mode?" Arona asked, looking up at him. "As in transportation through space and time?" "Yes." Now his cheeks seemed to turn a shade rosier. "Of course." Arona wanted to ask so many more questions and find out what he was researching and why, but her tongue wouldn't go there. "If you want to leave your phone number, I'll make some calls and see what I can do. I'll let you know as soon as I find something." He seemed to sigh in relief. Was he afraid of being asked questions? "That would be great." He took the piece of paper back and jotted down his number. "I'm staying down on Market Street above Piper Nim's pet shop through the fall, so I can come by and get it any time if you're able to locate it." "I'll do my best," she said. And she would. Anything to have a reason to call and see Watson again. Dang it, he's only here through the fall. But he didn't say, "We're here," so maybe he doesn't have a significant other here with him. She would have to do some more snooping around on Market Street to see what else she could discover about him. The library was on Market Street. She was willing to bet 2 chocolate croissants, still warm from the oven, that he spent a lot of time at that library. "I appreciate it," he said. "Thanks." He pushed his smart-looking glasses up his nose and walked out the door. Arona sighed. "Hopeless," Kunda said in her sing-songy voice, then headed toward the back room, probably to work on the bookkeeping. Kunda must have been watching again from the travel section. Between customers, Arona spent the rest of the afternoon searching online and emailing and calling her contacts around the country and world to see if anyone had Watson's book. She found no hint of it on any of the regular forums or network pages. All she could do now was wait and see if anyone responded to her queries. And that is the end of Chapter 3, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have enjoyed that. It has been a great pleasure to read to you, and I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and questions below about what you think this traveling without mode thing is, and what is Watson involved in that he wants to know this. But wait, there is still more. We are going to have a behind-the-scenes section again at the very end of this video, right after a very quick word from our sponsor. Hello, me again, representing Widge, my company where I get to create all sorts of fun things. And today I'm going to talk to you about baby clothes. Yeah, baby clothes. I know that's a little odd, it might sound like, especially being an author. Why would I be talking about baby clothes? Well, because of the power of words. That's why. There was a scientist in Japan who studied the power of spoken, written, and thought even words on water. He did some different experiments and then crystallized the water, and he found that positive thoughts and words had beautiful effects on the crystals of the water, and negative ones had caused the crystals to be deformed and just awful. So, well, and then connect that with babies who are about 74% to 84% of their weight is water when they're born. Okay, we've got a lot of opportunity to impact them through words. So I made some fun designs, and I'm going to highlight 3 of them today. One is God Dreamed Me Up, and that one is based on Psalm 139, and it is powerful for anybody, let alone a child, to just grow up knowing that they were dreamt up by God. I love it. And then number 2, God's goodness and mercy follow me forever. And that's got a cute butterfly design on it. And that's based on Psalm 23. And that's, all of these are just, I would love to just see children, babies, know these from the beginning so that they can just move forward into their life, with this just imprinted on their body, souls, and spirits. Yes. Okay. So the third one is Loved from the Beginning. And that one has planets all over it. And I was just thinking about how when God designed the universe, when he created everything, before that, he wrote our days. He loved us. He thought about us more times than we could count. He thought about us, and he loved us from the very beginning. When a person reads them, they might read them out loud or think them towards the baby, and even bless themselves too when they're so just blessing all around, blessing babies, blessing people, bless the babies in your life. And the links are below for those and for the book that I mentioned. All right, and now to Behind the Scenes. Hello, and welcome back to Behind the Scenes. Today we have a lot of fun stuff to talk about, and I'm going to jump right in and start with the books that were not in her book bag. She didn't have any Austen, no Dickens, no Carol, no Eurus. Why did I pick those? Very specific reasons, I'm telling you. All right, so Jane Austen, we'll start with her. One of my very favorite authors. She is such a funny and cheeky, tongue-in-cheek, as well as cheeky, writer who's not afraid to expose the foibles as well as the strengths of her characters. And if you've only watched the movies, do yourself a favor and get an audiobook or a book and read some of her stories. They're a lot of fun. But I read as much as I could. And there's a reason that book back there, the collection of Jane Austen stories, is there. Because I read all of them, as I said. And I like to think that it had a little bit of an influence in the style of this book. And I'll let you decide for yourself on that. But in my mind, it did. So yeah, I really like her style. Charles Dickens. For Dickens, yes. I like him because he was known as a powerful voice in the Victorian era for criticizing social justice issues that needed to be brought to light. Like children, like Oliver Twist. Okay, so that was big deal for someone to write fiction about what was going on with these really poor children. So yeah, I like that he wove social issues into his works. And then Lewis Carroll, author of Alice in Wonderland. That will make more sense a little later on in one of the other chapters. But I've got to say that the Johnny Depp version of Alice in Wonderland movie is one of my favorite movies. Yeah. So, okay. And then Leon Uris. He wrote about the founding of the state of Israel. And it's an older book, and it's a historical fiction, but it's based on a lot of fact. And that was a very powerful book for me that I read while traveling through Europe and Israel to some of the places that were being talked about in the books. So what a way to make a book come alive and history come alive, to visit concentration camps as you're reading about people surviving them or being killed in them or escaping them, that kind of thing. And then go to Israel and to meet a woman on a bus who had escaped a concentration camp and was... what she told me about when she came to Israel, that she felt like a princess. It was the first place that she had ever been where she felt truly valued for who she was. And that was, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. So yeah, that book made a big stamp on my life. So that's why I put those books in there, or those authors, I should say. And next, Quincy Lane. Quincy Lane is modeled after some of the old New England towns with cobblestones that are just such fun to explore. And I believe there are some of those in Newburyport, Massachusetts, which this town is modeled after a little bit. And yeah, and then the sounds of New England, the ones that you would hear in the harbor of the sails, masts clinking, and then the sunsets. They just bring back lots of good memories. When I write, I really like to get lost in the imagery and imagine myself being there, like really imagine myself and hear and smell all the senses, And so I often pick places that I just want to get lost in when I'm writing, because who wants to pick a boring place, right, to be lost in for a while? So yeah, so that's one reason I picked New England. And chocolate croissants. Oh yes, please. I love chocolate croissants, and my mom and I went to France one time and I let myself have one almost every morning. They're so good. So of course, Arona likes them too then, right? Okay, and Clive, the kitty cat. I love kitty cats. I have a couple kitty cats right now. This is Jasper. He's my little Clive. One of them. We have two. And yes, Clive. Do you know who he's named after? Clive Staple Lewis, C.S. Lewis. So I thought that was a fun nod to C.S. Lewis, another influential author in my life. And Arona's Flat. Such a cute little place. It is also in my head, in my imagination, very clearly because my dear friend, Dr. Posey, lived in that flat, but in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. So I've modeled it very much after her flat when she lived there. And she used to live right on the town square, and you could see the clock tower and hear it bonging 24 hours a day. But you do get used to it. And she had a cat, and she also reads probably more than anybody I know. She had stacks and stacks of books everywhere. And so I thought this would be the perfect place for Arona to live. We'll just move it east and put it on the coast. Yeah. So that's that. And my friend, Dr. Posey, two things. One is, if you read any of my blogs and there's a mention to a book spy, that would be her, because she recommends books to me quite often. And then also, she has her own nonprofit, and I put the link to her website below. She creates curriculum and gives presentations on genocides, Holocaust, and anti-Semitism. Very important educational work. So check that out if you're interested in those fields. And Dr. Favreau's book, yes, The Account of Herman Wiegler as it pertains to transportation without mode. Nope, it's not a real book. Sorry. But I did do some research that fed into that book. And if it was real, I would have put a link to that too. That would be fun. Anyway, we'll find out more about that book in coming chapter or 2 or 3, somewhere down the line. You'll find out more about that one. It's going to be fun. I hope you have enjoyed this Booksperience for chapter 3, and I'm looking forward to being with you for chapter 4. Come back soon. All right, leave comments, questions, and thoughts below, especially about what you think Arona is dreaming about. What's going on with that? Anything? Nothing. I don't know. Well, I do know. But do you? What do you think? All right, see you soon. Bye. Make sure to subscribe, like, turn on notifications, and share this video with all your friends so they can enjoy it too.